It began on the rooftop of a luxury high-rise, minutes before a life-altering deal. Vivian Langford, 38, poised and radiant in an ivory business suit, held the pen above the contract. The city stretched below her, a gleaming empire she built from nothing. As the ink touched paper, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She frowned and answered. A raspy voice whispered, "I hope you're happy now." Then silence. Her grip trembled. The call ended. She looked up. Something in her gut shifted. Seconds later, a blood-curdling scream echoed from across the street. She rushed to the edge of the rooftop and saw chaos on the sidewalk. A man, bloodied and limping, stumbled away from a smoking black SUV engulfed in flames. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Ah! Her eyes widened. The deal forgotten, the pen slipped from her fingers. Her world, once meticulously controlled, had just collided with something unpredictable, violent, and alive. And somehow, she was at the center of it. Vivian descended the stairwell, heels clicking like gunshots on metal steps. The rooftop deal was ruined, her thoughts consumed by the call and that broken man in the street. She exited into the lobby, elegant marble floor, whispers of luxury, and stepped out into the smoke-filled street. Fire trucks screamed past. Her eyes scanned the crowd. Then she saw him. Slumped against a lamppost, blood trickling from his temple, eyes clouded with pain, but alive. Instinct overtook logic. She pushed past the onlookers, kneeling beside him. "Are you hurt?" she asked. The man flinched, muttered something incoherent. His coat was torn, his breath shallow. She waved down a medic, but something about him made her pause. He looked at her like he knew her, like he hated her. And then he fainted. At the hospital, the man remained unconscious. Vivian sat in the sterile waiting area, hands clasped tightly, her polished nails digging into her palms. The doctor approached, an older woman with tired eyes. "He has a concussion and mild internal bleeding. No ID, no phone. You're the only one who brought him in." Vivian nodded. "He was in an explosion. I didn't know what else to do." The doctor smiled faintly. "You did the right thing." Alone again, Vivian stood at the edge of the room's observation window. He looked less dangerous now. Vulnerable. Strangely familiar. As if she'd seen him before, perhaps in an old photo or passing glance at a board meeting. But that was impossible. She watched his chest rise and fall. She wasn't sure why, but something about him terrified her. The next morning, he awoke. Vivian stood beside his bed, coffee in hand, wearing a new blazer over the same wrinkled slacks from the night before. "You're in the hospital," she said quietly. He blinked. "Who are you?" She gave a soft smile. "Someone who saw you fall out of the sky." He tried to sit, winced, and fell back. "I don't remember much. The car. Explosion," she offered. He shook his head slowly. "Just pain. And running." There was silence between them, thick with mystery. Then, a flicker. He looked at her, brow furrowed. "Why would you help me?" Her gaze didn't falter. "Because I've been there." He closed his eyes. "Then maybe you already know I don't deserve it." He refused to give his name. "Just call me nobody," he muttered, staring at the ceiling tiles. Vivian watched him, a mixture of pity and suspicion brewing. Something wasn't adding up. She left the room, stepping into the corridor. Her assistant called. "The merger's dead," he said. "Our partner thinks you're distracted." They walked. Vivian didn't reply. Her empire was crumbling, but here she was, babysitting a man with no past and haunted eyes. Back in the room, the man gripped the bedsheet, whispering a name. She paused. It wasn't hers. It was the name of a company, her biggest rival. Her stomach turned cold. Either he was hallucinating, or the universe had just dropped her enemy into her care. The past clawed at Vivian's mind as she drove home that night, the city lights blurring past her window. The man's face echoed something distant. Not from business. From pain. As the rain began to fall, so did her memories of childhood in a broken apartment, a mother who numbed herself with pills, and a promise she made to never need anyone. She had kept it, until now. At home, she stood before a framed photo of her 12-year-old self, arms around her mother, both smiling with a lie in their eyes. "You always said to be strong," she whispered. "So why does this feel like weakness?" She didn't cry. She never did. But her reflection in the window looked tired, almost defeated. And outside, lightning streaked across the skyline as if warning her. Something was coming, and it wouldn't be kind. Morning came like a slap. Vivienne arrived at her downtown headquarters, where the mood had shifted. Eyes followed her, whispers filled the air. Her assistant, Lena, greeted her with a grim expression. "There's a rumor. The man you rescued. Some think he's a saboteur. Internal leaks, data disruptions. Overnight." Vivienne paused. "That's ridiculous, maybe," Lena said. "But our cybersecurity flagged unusual access near the hospital's network hub. The timing is—" Vivienne clenched her jaw. The truth was, even she didn't fully trust him. Yet part of her recoiled at the idea of abandoning him. "Double the firewall protocols. I'll handle the rest," she said coldly. She turned toward her glass office, but in her chest, uncertainty bloomed like a bruise. Later that day, Vivienne returned to the hospital. She told herself it was just to get answers. He was awake, staring out the window, expression vacant. "How are you feeling?" she asked. He didn't turn. "Like someone I don't recognize." She sat beside him watching his profile, sharp jawline, faint scar beneath his eye. "Do you know the name Coldrex Dynamics?" she asked. A flicker. His mouth tightened. "No." A lie. She knew it now. "Why were you in that SUV?" she pressed. Silence. Then, "They were coming for me." "Who?" "People I thought I could trust." His voice cracked on the last word. That shook her. Maybe he wasn't the enemy. Maybe he was what happened to someone after the enemy got to them. But still, he was hiding something. And it was growing between them like a wall. That night Vivienne did something she hadn't done in years. She visited her mother's grave. The wind howled through the empty cemetery, trees swaying like mourners. She knelt beside the stone. "You warned me about trust," she said softly. "But what if I'm not afraid of being betrayed? What if I'm afraid I'm just like them?" Her voice broke, and for the first time in years, she let a tear fall. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lena. "He's gone. Checked out at hospital. Vivienne stood up, heart racing. "Gone." No. Without answers. Without goodbye. She looked up into the starless sky and whispered, "What are you running from?" But deep down, she feared she already knew. And worse, she feared he might be running toward something far more dangerous. The next morning, Vivienne's team tracked security footage. He had walked out of the hospital alone, wearing donated clothes, blending into the city like a ghost. But it was where he went that stunned her. Caldex Tower. Headquarters of her fiercest rival. She stared at the screen, mouth dry. "Zoom him in," she ordered. The image sharpened. He entered through the executive wing. Her world tilted. He wasn't just a nobody. He was someone they trusted. Or feared. Or both. The footage ended, and Vivienne turned away from the monitor. Her voice came out like a whisper. "I gave sanctuary to a man who could destroy me." But it wasn't anger she felt. It was betrayal layered with fascination. He hadn't just entered her world. He had chosen it. And now, she had no idea whose story she was caught in. Vivienne stormed into her office, slamming the door behind her. Her hands trembled as she threw the security report onto her desk. "Caldex," she muttered. Why would he go there? The name alone was a scar across her company's history. 10 years ago, they'd tried to bury her fledgling firm, nearly succeeded. The betrayal wasn't business. It was war. She paced, her heels echoing across the glass floor. Was he a spy? A pawn? Or something far worse, A ghost from their inner circle? Her phone rang. Boards demanding answers, Lena warned. They think you're compromised. Vivienne stared at the city skyline. Let them come, she said. But in her chest, she felt something she hadn't in years. Fear. Not of losing her company, but of losing control over a story that was no longer hers. That night, Vivienne's apartment felt like a cage. Every noise outside made her flinch. She poured herself a drink, sat in the dark, and pulled up old news clippings. One image made her freeze. A 10-year-old headline, Caldex appoints youngest CEO in tech history. The face was unmistakable. Him. Younger, sharper, in a custom-tailored suit with dead eyes. So, he wasn't a nobody. He was Jacob Rain, Caldex, enigmatic CEO. The man who ghosted the public for 5 years. Her breath caught. Everything about their encounter had been a lie. She felt exposed, played. She whispered into the silence, "Why come to me?" But there was no answer. Just the chill of realization that she had saved the man responsible for nearly destroying her life. The next morning brought no peace. Vivienne arrived to find chaos. Her company's servers had been breached. Overnight. P. Dozens of confidential files missing. Her CTO met her with pale cheeks and panicked eyes. It was a backdoor hidden in our system for months, activated remotely. Vivienne's blood ran cold. Was it him? The CTO hesitated. We traced the signal. Caldex. She gritted her teeth. The betrayal was complete. She had held him in her arms, listened to his lies. And while she did, he'd gutted her defenses from the inside. I want every trace of him scrubbed, she said. Now. As her team scrambled, Vivienne stood alone in the storm she didn't see coming. And behind her, the glass cracked ever so slightly. Symbolic. Ominous. Like something bigger was about to shatter. By noon, the media caught wind. Headlines flashed. Langford Systems breached, inside job suspected. Share prices plunged. Investors panicked. But Vivienne didn't flinch. She faced the cameras in a black suit, jaw set like steel. We were targeted, she said. But we are not victims. We are rebuilding stronger. She stepped down from the podium and disappeared into her car, windows up, expression unreadable. Lena sat across from her. Do you think he planned this from the start? Vivienne looked out at the traffic, the city that once bowed to her name. No, she said. I think this was personal. She remembered his eyes, hollow but searching, as if he hated himself more than he hated her. The question wasn't whether he betrayed her. It was why. It was why. That evening, she returned to the hospital on impulse. The nurses said he never came back. No records. No alias. But someone had dropped off a note for her. Her name written in sharp, elegant handwriting. She opened it with trembling fingers. Just 4 words. I never meant to. No signature. No explanation. She stared at it for a long time, then folded it neatly and placed it in her coat. The note didn't absolve him. But it cracked something inside her. Because monsters don't say sorry. People do. And maybe, just maybe, Jacob Rain was both. As she stepped into the elevator, her reflection in the steel doors stared back, not as a woman defeated, but as one awakened. The game had changed. And now, it was her move. Vivienne stood in a high-security archive room deep beneath her headquarters, somewhere even most board members had never seen. She traced her fingers along a locked cabinet, marked Caldex files, classified. With a key she never thought she'd use, she unlocked it. Inside, sealed court records, old surveillance photos, shredded acquisitions, and one file labeled Project Phoenix. She opened it and stopped breathing. There he was, Jacob Rain, posed beside her late mentor, Edwin Langford. Her father. The same man she'd once trusted above all. A note scribbled in the margins. Rain to a asset. Keep close, leverage if needed. Her chest clenched. Her father had known Jacob, had used him, had betrayed them both. The truth shattered the narrative. Jacob hadn't come to destroy her. He was a product of the same betrayal, and her father was at the center of it. Vivian didn't leave the archives for hours. The more she read, the more the myth of her father unraveled. Project Phoenix was a secret joint venture, a backdoor tech pipeline meant to funnel military-grade encryption into commercial software. Jacob, a programming prodigy at 19, had built its core. When he asked for credit, Edwin silenced him, blacklisted him, then handed the patents to Caldex. Betrayed and erased, Jacob vanished. Until now. She leaned against the wall, dizzy. Her empire, her legacy, was built on stolen brilliance. She remembered the way Jacob looked at her, not with hatred, but with tragic recognition. Now she knew why. They weren't enemies. They were the children of the same lie. She called Lena. "I need to find him," she said. "Now." Lena hesitated. "No. Viv, he's a ghost. Caldex wiped his trace years ago." Vivian's voice didn't waver. "Then we start with Caldex." By nightfall, Vivian stood outside Caldex Tower's rear entrance, cloaked in a black coat and resolve. A contact inside owed her a favor. Minutes later, she slipped into a dim hallway lined with portraits of corporate tyrants. Then, a voice. "I knew you'd come." She turned. Jacob stood in the shadows, eyes tired, suit wrinkled, hands in pockets. "You found the files," he said. She nodded. "Why didn't you tell me?" He stepped forward. "Because you wouldn't believe the truth until it hurt." Silence stretched between them, not as adversaries, but as broken pieces of a shared deception. They sat in an abandoned Caldex boardroom, the city lights behind them flickering like ghosts. "He used us both," Jacob said. "I built Phoenix. He promised it would change the world. Then he sold me out." Vivian clenched her fists. "And my company was his cover. I never meant to hurt you," he continued. "I wanted to burn it down, yes, but then I saw you. Who you really are. You're not him." She searched his face, saw the pain etched in every line. "So what now?" she whispered. "Now," Jacob said, "we finish what they started, but this time we do it clean." For the first time in days, she breathed. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't love. But it was understanding. And that was enough. For now. Vivian returned to her office at dawn, the city still quiet, untouched. She stepped inside and saw it, the old portrait of her father on the wall, smug and polished. She approached it, heart heavy, and took it down. Behind it, hidden in the frame, was a dusty memory stick. She inserted it into her laptop. Files loaded, audio clips, journals, deals. A full confession. Edwin Langford had built an empire of lies. "Consider this my insurance," his voice echoed. But it would become something else. Proof. What? Justice. And closure. She looked out at the awakening skyline. "It ends with me," she whispered. She copied the files, encrypted them, and placed them in a vault. Then she picked up her phone and dialed Jacob. "D? We burn it clean, together." He didn't respond right away. But when he did, his voice was calm. "I'm ready." Vivian's boardroom buzzed with tension. The whole board had assembled, including shareholders flown in on red eyes. Screens displayed plunging numbers, headlines, and a single topic: Langford's implosion Dora. "We need a scapegoat," one director barked. "We suggest stepping down temporarily," another added. Vivian stood calmly at the head of the table, black suit impeccable. "No," she said. "I'm not your shield. I'm your firewall." Murmurs. Then, silence. She activated a projector. It displayed her father's hidden files. "Everything you're afraid of, it didn't start with me, it started with him." Gasps. "Too." She let it sink in. "I can fix this, but I do it on my terms, or you find someone else to save you." Power shifted. The board didn't speak. She had seized the room not with volume, but with truth. And now they feared her in a new way, as the woman who had nothing left to lose. Hours later, Jacob waited alone at a discreet rooftop lounge overlooking the city. When Vivienne arrived, she didn't sit immediately. "You told me you'd walk away," she said. "That was before I knew the truth," he replied. "Before I saw who you really are." She finally sat. "We have one chance. If we leak the Phoenix files, Caldex collapses, but so does my board. Everyone loses." Jacob stared into the skyline. "Not everyone. Some of us were lost already." She looked at him. This man once wrapped in secrets, now stripped to scars. "You're not a villain," she said. "You're what villains leave behind." He turned to her, eyes soft. "So are you." For once, neither felt alone in that confession. Not enemies. Not allies. Just two broken people, ready to make things right. They made the drop under cover of night. A flash drive slid across a park bench in a quiet corner of the financial district. "Can you?" The recipient, a trusted journalist with a reputation for truth over fear. "Verify everything," Vivienne said. "Then publish it all." The journalist nodded and disappeared into the fog. Jacob stepped beside her. "We've started a war." She looked ahead, steady. "No, we've ended one. Let them choke on the ashes." As they walked away, sirens wailed in the distance. But this time it wasn't fear that followed them. It was purpose. They were no longer running from the truth. They were dragging it into the light. And for the first time, they were on the same side of it. The fallout came fast. By dawn, Caldex stock had frozen. Investigations opened. Journalists swarmed Jacob's name, once a ghost, now a headline. Langford Systems took a hit, but Vivienne's message was clear: truth over legacy. As she walked through her office, employees paused. Not in fear, but reverence. She was no longer the untouchable CEO. She was something rarer, a leader who bled for her choices. Jacob sent a message, no words, just a photo of a sunrise taken from the edge of the river. She stared at it, smiled faintly. No promises. No apologies. Just the quiet relief of two people who stopped pretending. The war was over. But peace had its own weight. That night, Vivienne stood once again on the same rooftop where it all began. The skyline blinked peacefully. No explosions. No screaming phones. Just wind and silence. She closed her eyes, remembering the woman she was, so certain, so protected. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone stronger. Scarred. Awake. She took the flash drive from her pocket, the original copy. Slowly, she tossed it over the edge. It fell into the darkness, no splash, no echo. Just gone. Her past didn't own her anymore. As she turned to leave, she whispered, "Goodbye, Father." The wind carried it into the dark. Somewhere across the city, she knew Jacob felt it too, that release. And for the first time in their tangled story, silence wasn't heavy. It was healing. Weeks passed. Headlines moved on. The tech world recalibrated. Langford Systems, though bruised, stabilized under Vivienne's leadership. Connie? She stepped into a stripped-down version of her office. No more portraits, no excess. Just work. Her decisions came quicker now. Sharper. She no longer second-guessed. She no longer asked for permission. A junior executive entered nervously. "Miss Langford, we received a partnership inquiry from Rain Dynamics." Vivienne raised an eyebrow. "He started over?" "Yes," the assistant replied. "Privately funded, clean slate." Vivienne looked out the window. A new company. A new path. And he had chosen not to use her name for leverage. That silence meant more than any press release. She nodded. "Schedule a call. Let's hear what he's building." The war was over, but evolution had just begun. They met again at a quiet cafe tucked away in a garden courtyard. No bodyguards. No boardroom tension. Just two people who once shared silence and chaos. No suits today? Vivienne teased, glancing at Jacob's casual blazer. No masks either, he replied. They sipped their coffee, no rush to talk. Then he said, I built this one from scratch. No investors, no ghosts, just code and purpose. She nodded. And you're asking for what? Not funding, not control, just collaboration. For something ethical. Vivienne smiled faintly. Funny, we both started this for control. Now we're just looking for peace. He raised his cup. To clean starts. She raised hers. To owning our names. For once the past wasn't a wound. It was just a map. Vivienne returned to the foundation she'd nearly forgotten. One she'd quietly funded for years. Tech literacy for underprivileged youth. She walked through the newly renovated space, children gathered around coding stations, mentors guiding them. She watched a girl, no older than 10, build a simple program. The girl looked up. Are you the boss here? Vivienne chuckled. Something like that. The girl smiled. Then thanks, this place is awesome. In that moment, Vivienne felt something purer than victory. Impact. The kind that didn't make headlines. The kind her father never chased. The kind that lasted. She knelt beside the girl, watching her debug a line. You know, she said, the world doesn't need perfect people. It needs honest ones. The girl nodded seriously. Then, I'm gonna be honest and smart. Vivienne grinned. You already are. That night, Vivienne visited her mother's grave again. No rain this time. Just calm wind and moonlight. She placed fresh flowers on the stone. You always told me to fight, she whispered. But I think what you meant was forgive. She stood there for a long while, not in grief, but reflection. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jacob. The prototype works. No shortcuts this time. She smiled. No shortcuts? That would be her new legacy. Not conquest. Not revenge. Integrity. She pressed her palm to the cold stone. You were right, Mom, I made it. But not the way you imagined. And for once, that was okay. She didn't need to be a lion to lead. She just had to be human. The next morning, Vivienne stood at the top of the Langford building, now stripped of its marble plaque. A new one had been installed, the Phoenix Atrium, named for the project that had nearly destroyed her and Jacob. Now it would house open source innovation. No secrets. No profit games. She walked through the atrium as construction workers cleaned up the final details. Glass walls. Open access. Sunlight pouring in. Jacob joined her, both carrying coffee. You really renamed it? He asked. We burned the lie, she said. This is what rose from the ashes. He looked around. It's honest. She smiled. That's the point. As they walked forward, side by side, neither carried the past anymore. Only the future. Unwritten. Earned. Wind. The building was nearly empty. Most employees had left for the evening, but Vivienne lingered in the innovation lab, walking between quiet prototypes and glowing interface screens. She stopped at one, Jacob's latest neural encryption build. Still unfinished. Still brilliant. She placed a note beside it. Just 4 words. Finish it your way. She didn't need to control it. Not anymore. Behind her, a faint knock. Jacob stepped in, hesitant. You stayed, he said. So did you, she replied without turning. He approached slowly, glancing at the note. His eyes softened. It's yours too, you know. She smiled faintly. No, it never was. It belongs to whoever needs it next. And with that, she walked past him, not away, not toward. Just forward. Later, Vivienne drove aimlessly through the city. Neon signs blinked against rain-speckled windows. Memories washed in, her father's voice, the rooftop explosion, the hospital, Jacob's fractured face. Everything that had defined her had collapsed. And yet, she felt whole. For the first time, she wasn't performing strength. She was living it. She stopped the car near a small bookstore, the same one her mother once took her to as a child. Inside, nothing had changed. Shelves, paper dust, that smell of worn pages. She bought a blank journal. No brand. No lock. No illusion. Just pages waiting to be filled. As she stepped back into the street, the rain had stopped. And something, weight, legacy, expectation, had lifted with it. At home, Vivienne placed the journal on her desk and sat quietly. She opened to the first page and wrote only a date. No explanation. No story. Just a moment in time. Her apartment was silent, save for the soft tick of a minimalist wall clock. She glanced at her reflection in the glass. No makeup, no mask, just a tired, real woman. And still, her eyes held fire. She walked to the balcony, breathing in the clean night air. The city pulsed quietly below. Not a battlefield. Not a prize. Just a place where people survived and tried again. She whispered, not to anyone, "I'm still here." And for the first time, it didn't sound like defiance. It sounded like peace. Across town, Jacob stood by the waterfront, staring out at the reflection of high-rises dancing across the river. In his hand, a photo, faded, creased, the only one left of him as a teenager, standing beside Edwin Langford. He'd carried it all these years, not as a reminder, but as a curse. Slowly, he let it fall into the water. The wind caught it, carried it a few feet, then released it to the current. His past had always defined him. Until now. He turned and walked away from the river, not looking back. His next project would carry no name. No debt. No legacy. Only vision. And in that moment, he felt not vindicated, but free. In the quiet before dawn, Vivienne sat at her kitchen table with a single framed photo, her and her mother, younger, hopeful. She placed it gently on the counter and stared for a while. "I made it, Mom," she whispered. "But not the way you thought." She stood, stretched, and stepped toward the window. Outside, the first golden streak of morning bled into the skyline. A new day. No press releases. No applause. Just breath. Just being. She walked away from the window, her silhouette dissolving into the apartment's early shadows. The camera lingered on the photo. The silence grew thick, not with sorrow, but with reverence. And then, nothing. Just the stillness of peace earned.